Welcome back to the Inwit. So still weird to just call it the Inwit, but here I am, Rob, to talk about this week's episode of Survivor, season 41. I actually don't know the name of this episode. I should have rewatched it. I only watched it once this time around, kind of because there's not a large amount for me to discuss. So this might be a pretty quick episode. This episode focused quite a bit on our hidden idols coming into play. The beware you lose your vote idol has now finally been activated. So a lot of this pre-game, pre-immunity revolved around that. We have Xander making, unfortunately, because I had high hopes for Xander making some really, really bogus errors in his gameplay right now. Not understanding he is literally the bottom, but that's maybe credit to Evie, who's manipulating him quite well, telling way too much information, and then bringing in Tiff. I mean, that was crazy. Meanwhile, Tiff and Liliana have pretty much searched through his whole bag and found everything. Though the search through the bag, what was that about? I mean, you've already had Evie say everything. Evie's pretty much word for word told Tiff and Liliana about the idol and that it's not activated and all this sort of stuff. And so they already know he's got it. They already know it's not activated. Not a large amount of information was gained. The only thing that was really gained was 100% confirmation. But then, what do you do with an idol? Like the bag is always allowed to be looked through. People can always look through your bag. I mean, you can hide it. I guess you can always go and hide it and bury it somewhere else, which is fine. I'd probably forget where I buried it, but I just wish there was a rule change. It couldn't go through people's bags. It takes some of the elements of the privacy and out of the game, and that bag should be at least a safe space. You should, as a player, you should be able to have a safe space, and by taking that away, I've never really liked the rule that you are allowed to go through other people's bags. You cannot take it, but you can go through it. I've never really liked that. It kind of bugs me a bit. It just means as a player, it's like, well, why would you keep it in your bag? And Xander gets caught out, and then decides to tell Tiffany, and decides to tell a lie about when he found the idol. You're gonna get caught out, and that was just another bonehead play, which really sucks, because Xander started off as like someone I'm like, oh, okay, he's young, but maybe he's got some game to him, and he's really started to let me down. So that was a bit of a shame. We get a little bit of the Luvu tribe again, wanting to throw the challenge, and this time Shan and still pushing with Danny, and Danny seems to be on board with throwing a challenge, but now they need Naseer on board. And Naseer just doesn't agree with it. And you know what? I am the same. There's no need to throw a challenge. Throwing a challenge doesn't really get you anywhere. You don't know what's coming up in the game. You don't know who you're going to need. If you're not going to tribal right now, sure, you're not getting the tribal experience. You might find yourself a little bit out of the depth when the game actually heats up in tribal. At the same time, you're not going to tribal. You don't risk going home. You can build stronger relationships, and you could probably plant seeds. You can probably manipulate more people and set up more solid alliances that aren't really solid alliances. So Naseer does the right thing and says, look, there's no point. We got nothing to gain. And the fact that anyone who does do this, where does it get them? It never gets them anywhere. And Deshaun's answer is, well, we're not those people. that answer is just ridiculous. I've never understood that concept. When you hear that, it's like, well, it's happened every other time. Well, I'm not them. It won't happen to me. Yeah, it will. It will. But Naseer is really climbing up to be one of my favourite players of this season. I loved him from the get-go, and he just keeps giving me more and more to love about him. And I love... Sorry, thought it might be raining out there. I love the fact that, well, I mean, we get the edit later of him finding the idol day before, and had his daughter would hide idols out in the yard for him to find. It's just awesome. It's just really, really lovely. So I'm a big fan of Naseer. I hope he goes further than he probably will. I'd love him to get to Final 3. I don't know if he will, but he looks like he's going to go pretty far. And then we go over to our decimated Ua. And we've got our 3. Ginny finds the idol. And once again, I mean, her honesty, she said, I'm an honest player, but it doesn't really get you very far. It got her voted out in the end, because, I mean, Shan doesn't need honesty. She's already pretty much established she might have someone who's going to be loyal to her on that walk away. But anyway, Jenny finds the idol and decides to once again open her mouth and tell everybody. Tell her last 2 tribe mates. Why? Why would you tell the last 2 people? Unless you're praying that the very next time you see Jeff, there is going to be a mix-up or a merge or something. There's only 3 of you, and right now you feel like you're on the bottom, and there's a high chance you are on the bottom. Someone has to go home if you lose. You've got, what is it, a 33.33% chance of going home. Whatever the third percentage is you have, there's a 1 in 3 chance of you going home. And you open up a little bit of information, a little bit of potential power, and a thing that could save your life to the other 2 people. There is no logic in just... I mean, I hate talking about an idol. I hate when people talk about the idol in general. Usually there seems to be very little reason to do so, and it's never, if it's done, I mean, we saw Haley do it properly in Australian Survivor, but it was everybody knew about the idol anyway, so it was kind of a public idol, and it's better for people to know that and have that honesty. But here, you're in a situation where there is no reason for you to say you found the idol. Anyway, she says the other finds the idol. Shan does the great thing. Shan does the great thing of saying none of us should open it, because she doesn't want Ginny to open it. It becomes a risk if she opens it. But then, you know, sneaky Ricard comes up with the great idea that we could open it and switch it out. And somehow Shan gets that. I thought Ricard possibly would have done that, but Shan gets it. She goes and switches it up, and they come up with a great little plan, and Ginny bites hook, line, and sinker, and it's great. It sounds amazing. Let's bait, because we don't want to lose our vote. Let's bait the other tribes and let's see. We know the code. I remember it from Brad saying it. Let's see if everyone else has found it, because if they haven't found it, you know, loved it. Brilliant little bit of strategy. Makes great sense. So now she's walking away, and she's stolen the extra vote off JD, and now she's got this. She's now got the idol that currently is inactive, but then obviously after our immunity challenge becomes an active idol. All 3 of them are now active, and then she's lucky enough to be sent on the expedition up the mountain where she bonds with Liliana. Yeah, she bonds with Liliana. And it's a really important bond. There is a lot that she does here that is almost flawless. If I'm not here, I can't, like, Ricard's my number 1, don't trust Ricard. So she's already given up, she's already sacrificed Ricard to someone she probably wants to work more with, and to someone she could probably trust a bit more than Ricard, because Ricard, should have gone after her. I mean, he makes the pitch to Ginny, but he doesn't mean it, and Ginny also, like, it's just, that bit's a bit illogical for me, for Ginny, to just, I think she needed to take, right now Shan became the number one spot. They're talking about, we need to vote her out, but her name's never going to be dropped. In this situation, Ginny should have taken a Sandra Diaz, Twine mentality of, as long as it isn't me. And if your name's coming up, and if your name is potentially there, what she should have done is gone, cool, I need to get those two to I need to put myself in the middle. Because if you're not in the middle, you now have a 50% chance of going home, pretty much. Sure, the shot in the dark dice and whatnot. But with there's three people, you want to be in the middle. Shan was away. And somehow still, it was all about, they were still against each other. So there's a bit of weirdness there. Because even if I was Ricard, I'm like, I don't want to be in the middle either. I want to get those two against each other. And he tried, but it wasn't for the right reason. It was just so Ginny could be safer. So she was a bit more reliable. Doesn't really matter. It's just, why don't you try and make the situation so you can be the middle person? You can put yourself in the position of power and control your fate. Anyway, Shan does some great talking up there, builds some great bonds in, 3 hours, she says. And that's going to prove pivotal to whatever happens next week, whether it's some sort of shift up. It's definitely not a merge, but it is something. And they said something that's never happened before. So maybe they're split into two tribes, but those two tribes will be living together on the same beach. Who knows what's going to happen? But if they end up on the same tribe, pre-merge, and we're not too far away from a proper merge, if there's going to be a proper merge this time around, we're not too far away, that this quick little relationship and the quick bit of trust and this is what's happening, can't trust Ricard, I want you to have this advantage. I need my vote, but I really want this for you. Everything is great for her. That's a great bond. That's a great thing to go in and have that connection with someone, come and mix up, come and merge. So very, very good there. But now the one, I haven't really had a problem with Shan at all this whole time. I think she's played pretty flawlessly so far. But the giving up the extra vote. She gives up the extra vote early. She gives it up before she goes and gets the idol, or after she gets the idol, before the tribal. No, you give the extra vote up on the night walking to tribal. Here, I need you to have this. If you're worried. But you've given it, he's had it for too long now, and now you have to, now you know it's not, you don't need him to have it. Because there's no reason for him to have it unless there's a reason. There was no reason to give it across. She's given it across, and now she goes into that same thing that she did with JD to try and get it back. Whether she was going to vote him out or not, it was irrelevant. It's the fact that he never needed that item. He never needed that advantage. She gave it up too easy, and now she wants it back. And she's trying to do that silly little, please, I'm worried, I'm concerned. Like, I was with you, you just did that with JD. And where's JD now? He's home. Here, I've got his advantage. You can't do that with me. So giving the advantage up was the one little flaw that she's done so far. I mean, I don't mind her giving it up at some point in time, but there was no need no need then, and there probably would have been no need across the board. It was just a little bit of insurance that it was a insurance to this risk that wasn't really there in my mind. The risk of maybe not being able to have a vote. So that's what it was. It was like, I'm going to give you this because if I lose my vote, okay, I'm going to lose my vote if I get this advantage, and we can't lose my vote because then it's going to be one vote each. Again, Thingo doesn't know she's lost a vote. And it would have been a great play for Shan to get them to both vote. Oh no, you'd never vote for yourself. Not possible. Maybe she gave up the advantage because she wouldn't be able to give up the advantage once she lost the vote. I don't know how. It doesn't make much sense. But because it says nothing about that in the rules of that script. But maybe she gave it up prior because once she loses her vote, that advantage becomes null. Even, I don't know. I still reckon she should have held on to it because, again, I need to know how that was going to play out. But all she needs to do is, cool, I don't actually have my vote tonight. Here, I have to give you this second vote. Great. Jeannie goes home. Doesn't matter. We need to use it tonight. But she's given it up without actually needing it. Like, it wasn't a necessity yet. And then you give it up after the immunity challenge. When if you lose, and they did lose, you give it up there because then you know, great, the idols are not in play. I definitely don't have a vote. You need to have this. The only reason to do it like that she did is if that was purely the rules. If it's purely the rules, then that's what you do. I guess there's no real way out of that. If you want to take the gamble to get that immunity idol. But that's my only little bit of a flaw that she's done so far, because I would have done it differently if allowed. Otherwise, you end up having, the little debate of who's worth her taking. Ricard, who's a heavy strategist and who's come up with some brilliant plans that she's gone and done, or Ginny, who she can trust. She can trust Liliana now. Doesn't need someone she could trust. She can also trust Liliana knows to get rid of Ricard. You don't need too many people you can trust. And Jack and I have said this over the years. If you've got one person, all you need is that one person, and that can get you pretty far to the end. But yeah, otherwise than that, it was a pretty basic episode. There wasn't a large amount. We did revolve too much around this idol finally coming into play. Great, whoopee-doo, and nothing's been done with it yet. Which then you go into, well, maybe this beware advantage, as interesting as it was or is, it kind of defeats the purpose, I guess, of having these idols. Nothing's been played. We've had no idol play. We've had no major blindsides because of an idol play. Maybe this disadvantage thing doesn't work. As much as I want disadvantages in the game, I think it's a really great, exciting thing to have a disadvantage. But this advantage blend, maybe that doesn't work. And in this case, it hasn't really done anything. We're halfway through the game pretty much. We're having our first mix-up of some description, whatever it will be, which will probably be only for 1 to 2 episodes before the final merge, if there's a final merge. And we haven't really seen anything. No one's used an advantage. No one's done anything. Liliana's advantage. Interesting advantage, that one, where you can just take whatever you want. She can just take the idol. Again, I don't know if I like this. I don't know if I like this advantage. We've seen similar things like this in the past. But it's just like, you can go through someone's bag, you can confirm they've got the idol like she's done. Xander has an idol. All I need to do is play my knowledge as power advantage and ask you for your idol. And you have to give it to me. I get it. Which now takes another idol, it takes that idol out of play. What it does is, if you have to do it at tribal, it takes the idol out of play that might have been hidden, that now gives you an idol that is no longer hidden, so it becomes a public idol because you have to do it in front of everyone else. That now everyone sees you've got an idol, and it might be important for everyone to try and flush the idol. Another shitty advantage. This is an advantage I just don't like. Interesting, kind of cool, but when you think about it a little bit more, probably just going to be a really shit advantage, which is a bit of a shame. Because, cool, you get to steal someone's advantage or idol or whatever you steal. But whatever you do ends up hindering you anyway, because now everyone knows you've got it. Unless you can do it in secret, unless you can go up to Xander on the beach one morning while he's stretching or getting ready to wash his clothes or go for a swim or whatever he's going to do, and go, hey, I got this advantage, I'm going to play it. Do you have an idol? If you do, you have to give it to me. maybe there's some secrecy there, but if you have to do it at tribal, if you have to do it when Jeff says, if anyone has an individual immunity, if anyone has a hidden idol or an advantage that would like to play, now's the time to do so. If you have to do it in that little moment, disadvantage becomes almost a hindrance. It becomes another disadvantage. That's not meant to be a disadvantage. Yes, you take someone out of the game. Yes, we're going to vote Xander out of here tonight, but I'm going to take his idol. Great, I've taken his idol now. Everyone knows I've got an idol. Now I'm vulnerable. That's not an advantage. It's a short-term gain for long-term pain. So look, I don't know how I feel about that at the moment. We'll see how it plays out, and hopefully it's not in front of everybody. But if it is, it's a bit of a shame. It's one of those things, I guess, when there's not much to talk about in this episode, but now it just makes me think about what Survivor could be and what it is. Obviously, I love Survivor regardless. For those of you who tune in, I love this show. I miss talking to Jack about it every week. I love talking about Survivor. But so you think about the game, and right now, you know, maybe the fire tokens from season 40 might have been a better thing to have play out and explore a bit more than all this new stuff for 41. Maybe they had too much time to think about it. What would be fun is, like, you know, sometimes it's like in the acting world, I hear this all the time: less is more, less is more, less is more. This could be the same thing for Survivor. It might be interesting to not, the twist could be no hidden idols. Less is more. Let's see what happens. Let's see the gameplay. Let's see the strategy. Let's see everyone's fear of an idol being out there, but it's not out there. I would love people to, like, I'd love that to people to be afraid of this thing that has been part of the game for what, 10 years, 15 years now? Somewhere between there. Yet it's not in this season. Who's got it? Who's got it? Who's got it? Well, there is none. And no one knows. No one knows where it is. Maybe just have idols. Maybe no other advantage. No super idols. No any of this other stuff. Maybe just go back to streamlined basics. We're at season 41. We want to start fresh. Let's start fresh again. Keep it simple. Keep it simple, stupid. Maybe this is overcomplicating things, all these disadvantages. As much as I really want to see disadvantages, but I want to see disadvantages in the sense that I'm looking for an idol and I find what I think's an idol, and it's not there's no beware, there's no watch out. It's like, I've got it, I open it up, I read it. Oh shit, this is not something I need or want or can get rid of. This hurts. Crap. Even if it is just, I don't have a vote. I don't know, but you know, but there's a real advantage out there and there's a real disadvantage out there, and you never know what you're going to get. You could get like a reverse. You could get a reverse immunity idol where maybe it's like you find this idol while you've got it. It means there will be a vote cast for you every night. And the longer you have it, it's kind of like, I guess, kind of like the Hunger Games, where there's more votes cast against you. So the first night, you've got 1 vote. Second night, 2 votes. Third night, 3 votes. If you go to 3 tribals back to back, you're going to have 3 votes against your name. And to get rid of this idol, you have to complete this challenge, you know, that's got to do with the tide. So there's a certain amount of time. You got to find this thing over here to get rid of this negative idol. That might be interesting. But then that takes people away from the camp, which takes people away from gameplay and the socializing and the strategy side of things. But who knows? Anyway, what do you guys think? What do you think we could bring in? What do you think needs to be taken out? What do you think is working? What do you think isn't working? Because right now, this, as much as I wanted these beware advantages to work, because I really am interested with the disadvantage, it's not working. It hasn't given us any value. It's given us a little bit of fun saying that silly phrase and whatever Brad's phrase was, or that, you know, I mean, that's all we've got from it. Also, we can hold back on some of the edits. I don't need to see everyone's life story. I don't mind the cutting of time. I don't mind that edit this time around in this season. And we've never seen a day before, 3 days ago. We've never seen that. But we're taking on a lot of the Australian Survivors cutaways of them at their home life. I don't need to see that. I don't need to see their story. Their story evolves on the island through their communications with other people. That I can get rid of. I'm happily getting rid of that. Anyway, I might wrap that up there. Not much strategic to talk about today. A little bit of a whinge about beware advantages and nothing going on with the idols. And a tiny little gripe about the edit that I forgot I wanted to talk about. Anyway, if you have any comments, please chuck them in the comments below. Like, subscribe, do all the bits and bobs. I will reply to anything you write. Anyway, have a good day.